part of the Holland Park Transformation Project, we're conducting a series of interviews with people who attended the West Ward School, which used to stand at the center of that site. And so hopefully we will be able to document in authentic voices the history of that school. So to begin, why don't you tell us your name and when you attended West Ward?
Okay, well, my name is FLOYD Bell, and I was born in 1943. I attended West Ward School roughly from 1948 to 1953. Those are my years of attendance.
Did you attend any other elementary school, or was it all at West Ward?
After I left, after West Ward closed down, I went to Austin School, and I was there for 1 year, and then I went to their uncle school for 1 year before I went to high school.
And you were living at the same place for all of that?
Yes, I lived 2 minutes away from West Ward School, right on Washington Street, so
Okay.
that's where I lived all the time, yes.
And did you have brother or sisters in West Ward as well?
Yes, I have an older sister, Gloria, who attended school. She started 1 year before I did, and my younger sisters who attended, she's 3 years younger than I am, so about 3 years after I started attending, she attended it.
Okay. When you actually went to school, walked to school, did you walk with your sisters, or did friends, or did you go by yourself?
Okay. I really don't remember, but probably with my sister. It was only 2 minutes away, so I probably walked with my sister to school, probably, yes.
Okay. What I'd like for you to do next is to take us through a normal, average day for you at West Ward,
Okay.
as best you can remember.
Okay. First of all, can I just start off by saying I thought we had very excellent teachers at West Ward, in the persons of Ms. Holmes, Ms. Biggs, Ms. Ferguson, and Ms. one more. Stewart, right. From what I can remember, in addition to being given instructions on this and that and everything, we had rest periods, a time to just take a nap. I can't remember how long, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever, but we had a rest period every day. And there was also a period for recess. We went off recess, and I guess in the middle of the day, I guess. And it depended on how good of an athlete you were as to how long you stayed out. Now, I was not a very good athlete, so if you were good at playing football or baseball, they let you stay out longer. I remember that, but I never qualified for that. But that was one thing that I remember in my memory. I remember white teachers being brought in at certain times for special projects, like maybe a play or something. And I remember on one occasion I played the part of one of the three wise men. Okay. And I sang the song, "Myrrh is mine, the bitter perfume." I remember that. I thought I could sing after that, but I don't know how talented I was, but I did do that. I think her name was Mrs. Brock. I think that was the white teacher's name who came in to instruct us on music and so forth.
Okay.
So that was very good. I will say that I think the teachers back in those days took their job very seriously. And if there was some problem with a student messing with you after you got out of school, I had one of my teachers walk me back home to make sure nobody bothered me. Mrs. Stewart.
Okay.
She's the one who did that. Now, that's the average teacher does not do that sort of thing, but that's what we were accustomed to at West Ward School.
Okay. So you named all of your teachers. In addition to the visiting teacher who had you do the play,
Yes.
do you recall having any other teachers like music and art or any other program who came like from the high school once a month or something like that?
Very vaguely. I seem like I remember someone coming from the high school, maybe Mrs. Gravenstein?
Yeah, Gravenstein.
I think I remember her
Okay.
coming. I'm not sure how often she came, but I believe she came.
Okay.
Yes.
You talked about Mrs. Stewart walking you home, and if there were a problem. Do you recall any kinds of discipline that occurred in school?
Yes, I certainly do. I don't think I was an especially bad student, but I was punished for whatever. On certain occasions when I did something out of order, I remember being hit on the hand with a ruler from Miss Biggs.
Yeah.
And it was very painful, if I remember correctly. It was very effective. I stopped doing whatever I was doing. But I remember that part. And also, when you did something out of line, she had you set under the desk, I believe, or in a corner in a chair for punishment. I remember those things, yes.
Okay. What impressions did you have of other staff, like the janitors or anybody else who would work in the school?
I think my memory kind of fails me in that area. I really can't remember who were the janitors, but I'm sure there were, but my memory fails me.
One name that's been mentioned twice is Mr. James Sweet. Mr.
James Sweet. I really have no memory of
Okay.
the janitor there, but I remember the name.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have any contact with your teachers outside of school?
Yes. Miss Ferguson was more or less in my family in some kind of way. Right, yeah, that's it. She was I guess she was a relative, yeah. She was on the Wood side of the family, and her husband had a fascination for trains, electric trains.
Yes.
And he had a fabulous collection, and I remember going to her house just to see that train when they lived on Albion Street,
Right.
next to the Washington, yes.
So you got to see, that's my uncle. That's
Yeah.
my Uncle Cliff.
Yes,
His
I saw he was
jet,
a
he
jolly old guy, yes.
really
very
into
very
trains.
nice. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. What about, did you run into them like in church or not?
I'm not sure if Miss Ferguson went to Bethel Night Church or not. I'm not sure about that. I think she went to another church.
Okay.
I believe, yes.
In terms of school activities and recess or end of the year picnics or games, do you remember any special activities? Or let's talk recess first.
Okay, recess.
What was that like?
First of all, let's talk about the things I remember on the grounds. There was something called the merry-go-round, which was an exciting thing to ride on.
Yeah.
You got on it, and you held onto your hand, and you just swung your body like that.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. I haven't seen anything like it since, really.
Right.
And there was something, a slide that you just slide down, and teeter-totter, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
One person gets on this end, and one person gets over here, and you go up and down, and
Yeah.
we had a baseball field, I think,
Yeah.
yes. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah. You remember the swings?
The swings, yes, I certainly do. There were about maybe 4 or 5 swings.
Yeah.
And someone had to kind of push you to get you started anyway.
Yeah.
Then you could pump yourself up to keep going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I do, very, very definitely.
Do you recall when you would go out the door facing Dalrymple Street and the swings were on the left?
Yes, on the left, yes.
All right, do you remember the trees, especially in the fall, and all those golden leaves? When you would first come out of that door for recess, there were leaves at the bottom.
I'm afraid I don't really have any memory of that.
Any trees?
Not in that particular place. I remember it seemed like there were trees alongside Albion Street that we used to climb up, I believe. This guy by the name of Bob Wall, and I used to climb up those trees. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What about special occasions like Halloween, Thanksgiving, anything? Halloween parties? Do you remember any Halloween parties in the school?
Oh, God.
Where they would-
I really do not remember anything about
They
that.
would bring in, I remember one year they brought in a magician from somewhere. Yeah.
Okay,
No
I guess I
memory
have,
of
I
that.
guess I have no memory of that, no.
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving.
any activities?
It's kind of vague in my memory how the celebrations for holidays and so forth. I don't remember that very.
Okay. Um, while outdoors playing at recess or after school, were you ever aware of smoke or anything like from the gale or debris blowing over?
Yes, I do have some memory of that. There was a very distinct smell coming from, I think the Malibu was very strong in those days. That's where my father worked, by the way.
Yeah.
A very distinct smell, and probably something from Gale also, which was closer.
But the Malibu was
The Malibu was
dominant.
the dominant smell, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What groups or clubs, now I know we had safety patrol, for example.
Yes.
Do you recall any other clubs or groups that were organized within the school?
I do not, other than the safety patrol. I think I was probably, I was on the safety patrol at one time, probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, outside of groups like that, do you recall being involved in activities with students from other elementary schools?
While I was attending,
Mm-hmm.
I do not.
Okay.
I really do not remember any interaction with other schools at that time until
Okay.
it was closed down.
When you were, I think when it would be fifth grade, do you recall there being a fifth grade camp over towards Battle Creek, where students from all different elementaries would attend?
Was it headed by Reverend Wheeler by any chance?
No, this was an outdoor camp, I think at Clear Lake.
Oh,
Do you recall anything like that?
no, I cannot. I can tell you what I do remember when the school closed down. Reverend Wheeler was kind of in charge of helping us stay focused on school and so forth. So I guess we had classes in the church, and I think there's something called the Royal Ambassadors.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Reverend Wheeler was very much a part of that.
Right.
So he kind of kept us interested in school after the school closed,
Okay.
until we were able to go to another school.
Okay. Okay. What about activities where students would come from the college to do something with kids at West Ward, or take you or groups of students on campus for any activities?
Okay, my memory kind of fails me again in that area. Seemed like I remember going up to the high school, and I was taken up there by someone from the high school for some special function. I had to sing or something, you know.
Were you in a play?
Maybe it was a play. Maybe some group called the Brownies. Does that mean anything? The
No,
Brownies?
you with Miss Gravenstein.
I think so.
That was I was in the same play. And our characters
Yeah.
were brownies.
Brownies. Okay, I remember the term Brownies. Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But nothing with the college.
No, not specifically. No.
Okay. What about food in school? Do you remember, did you eat lunch in school, or did you just go home since you were close?
If I remember correctly, we ate lunch in school. One item I remember enjoying all the time was prunes.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they got a big jar of prunes from someplace. I don't know. Well, I don't know how fresh they were, but they were very good.
Yeah,
And they were welcome, actually. Prunes and maybe some orange juice.
yeah.
Yes.
So for daily lunch though, you went home?
I think so. I can't remember specifically, but I only lived 2 minutes away, so I very, very likely that I went home. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a little different. I was talking with my sister, and she reminded me, when we were kids, there was this story that was used to scare us, to keep us from hanging out at Westward grounds, like after sundown.
After Sunday.
And it was a story about an old woman and her pigs, and that if you were up on the school ground and it's starting to get dark, she would they would chase you away? You ever hear any,
No,
or
I
any
did not.
variation on a
I
story
do
like
not.
that?
I remember something scary on the other street, on West Michigan Street. There was a house right across the street from where I used to live later on. There was some kind of statue in a truck, and that was very scary for some reason. I can't visualize, but it was just something about something in a truck that scared everybody. Yeah, there was some story behind that too, but I remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the atmosphere of the school itself, in your memory, was it a bright, cheerful, dark, gloomy, comfortable? What kind of place was it?
A very comfortable learning experience, actually. There was a lot of positive things about that. I don't really remember the negative parts. I don't think we really realized how backward we were going to that school. It didn't dawn on me, or maybe most of the students, that we were behind in the times, you know. So it was very pleasant. It was a very, very pleasant experience.
Okay. And along the same line, as a student, were you aware of anything about the building itself, like needing repairs or something like that?
I think it's safe to assume that it probably needed a lot of repair, but I don't remember distinctly what those repairs were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you would hang your coat or your boots, where you put your boots when we come to school?
It was in a closet area or something like that. I can't remember if it was in the front as you walk in the door or not, but I remember some area designated for that, for your coat and your boots and so forth.
Okay.
Yes.
On the west end building,
West End, okay.
when you went, was that door open? I mean, could you go in and out? Because that would have been the end where your 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were.
Okay.
Could you get out?
Seemed like I remember some door, maybe facing Washington Street, I
The
think.
side, okay.
I think so. I think we were using that door, I think, like going out for recess and tours.
All right. Did you ever go into the basement?
You know, I probably did, but I don't have any real memory of that, of what it looked like, or, you know, I don't really remember
Okay.
that part. No.
Because that's what I was going to ask. What do you remember being in that basement?
Oh.
In the summertime, after when it was just recreation, do you ever remember there being a little boxing ring somewhere in the school? Because I remember this being in the basement on that same side, facing Washington. And you go in a door down into the basement, and there was a small boxing ring, big enough for 2 people to be fairly close together. It wasn't very big. You don't remember anything like that?
Wow.
Okay. There's been a lot said as adults about the fact that we were receiving secondhand books. Do you remember as a child being aware that your books were not new or anything like that?
I don't think I was aware that they were used books, but it's very likely that they probably were, but I do not really distinctly remember that. No.
Oh, okay. Or what about any other supplies or equipment that you use? Were you aware that it wasn't as good as it ought to be, or anything like that?
Honestly, I would say I do not remember being aware of those things.
Okay. All right. What was your last year there?
It closed down in 55 or 53?
No, it was
When did it close down?
June of '53 was the last.
Okay, so I was there.
So you were
I was
there for that.
I was there for that. Yes.
Okay. The following fall, had you heard your parents or other people talking about the possibility of closing the school? Had you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I think I probably heard, but back in those days, I didn't seriously listen, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And when it came time for the boycott, what about hearing anything about or knowing other kids, younger kids, whose parents kept them home from school that September?
I really don't remember addressing the term boycott back in the day, you know.
Yeah. Or just keeping their kids home.
Yeah, I really don't remember, I don't really have any memory about that too much, really.
Okay.
I just remember it's like it closed and we were out of school for, I don't know, until the next year or so, until I went to Austin School.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember about that, yeah.
In your time at Austin, what comparison could you make between the two?
Well, for the first time, I was introduced to white students, but it was not a traumatic event for me, you know.
Yeah.
It's just having new people to play with and so forth. There was nothing real big, or there was not a big adjustment to that.
Had you played, I know we used to play softball against other schools. Had you played some of those kids as a part of a West Ward team?
Probably not. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't very athletic, so I probably wasn't even on the team.
Okay.
I probably wasn't good enough. You know?
So you don't recall anybody in your family being a part of being held out of school or
I do
anything
not.
like that? Okay.
I do not. It might have happened, but I do not have a memory of that.
When you left West Ward and went to junior high, how did you feel about leaving? Well, actually, you were leaving Austin then.
Yes. Or Darrell.
Oh, Darrell, yeah. When you went to those other schools, did you feel? And I know this is a bad question for a kid, but as a kid, did you think you were up to par with everybody else? Or you did not even give it a thought?
I don't think I felt inferior as to what I should know and what I should not know. I think I was up to par with this.
And when you went later to junior high and high school, you felt you were adequately prepared?
As far as I can remember, I would say yes.
Yeah.
That's the only memory I have of
Okay.
that.
When you look at your West Ward experience, is there anything that really stands out, some event, some person that occurred that you remember better than anything else?
Well, as a matter of fact, there is one incident that concerned a little fight I had actually with a guy by the name of Otis Banks. I'm sure you know him. He was kind of a bully type guy. He was a low guy, he was a bully. He puff and puff and scary, you know. My sister Gloria was, I guess she was pretty popular, you know, the guy, you know. So back in those days, if it was a guy that liked the girl, they liked to fight him. That was their normal reaction, you know. And I remember coming home from school one day, and I was walking home with Gloria, and Otis Banks and Billy Whitehead was behind us, messing with us. And I think Billy Whitehead was coaching Otis on to mess with us, you know. And I could, you know, I was so scared, you know, I wasn't a fighter at all, but when you get scared enough, you do something. And I turned around and I kicked Otis as hard as I could, like I was trying to kill him, you know. It just out of just reaction because I was scared, you know.
Yeah.
And what happened, he either hit me or kicked me back, and that was the end of the fight. He never messed with me again, so that took care of that, yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, I see you have some notes.
Oh.
Is there anything you
Well,
want to share?
I think you've covered quite a bit, actually.
Well,
Okay, I could mention this. After the school closed, and the building was not used for anything, and the windows were all boarded up.
Yeah.
I remember we used to have a lot of fun just walking around the building holding on to the boarded up windows.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Okay.
It was kind of dangerous, but it was fun for us. You know, we had a lot of time on our hands, so we walked around the building just holding on to the boarded up windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was very evident back in those days was the spirit of the community. One parent didn't hesitate to jump in and hail some student who was doing something out of line. And he was praised for that by the parents when the child got home. And this was a very community-oriented atmosphere back in those days. And I think it's very different now. You don't dare put your hand on another person's child. Now, anything might happen to you. Back in those days, it was entirely different.
Yeah.
And as the saying that it takes a village or community to raise a child, I think it was very true back in those days.
Yeah, we actually had a village.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, your dad worked at the Malvo.
Yes, he did.
Where did they move from to come up here?
He was from Alabama, and he must have come up, Gloria was born in 41, so he must have come up around 1940 or so, and got a job, and he worked there all his life until he died. It was some very bad working conditions, but those people made a living, and I will say that my father and my mother were one of my early heroes, very definitely, and when he accomplished with what he had to work with.
Yeah.
My father got as far as the 8th grade, but gee, what he accomplished.
Yeah.
It made me look foolish. The things I had to work with, the college degree and everything, oh man, he accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
So he's definitely one of my heroes. And my mother too, she managed to finish high school, and she didn't go to college, but I'll tell you what, she was one of the most articulate people you would ever want to meet, you know.
Yeah,
She corrected me sometimes when I said something out of line, so they must have had some very good teachers back in Alabama, very good, yeah. Yeah.
So they came around 1940.
1940, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Wow, so, I will say this, something of everything, I thought about this today, this is what I came up with today. The best product out of my whole Albion experience was acquiring the friends of my past and present best friend, Robert Wall. That is correct, yes.
Thank you for that. You, questions?
Are we
Oh, yeah.
concluded? Okay, well,
But,
we got that on tape.
good.
Testimony.
Yeah.
So I have a first question. When you went to Austin,
Yes.
I've read that there were African American students there kind of all along, but maybe they were segregated in that school. Were you?
I'm not aware of that at all.
So when you were there,
There was no segregation at that school anyway. It was kind of a unique place to go, really. For one thing, for discipline, when someone got out of line, they had to box this tough guy, Bobby Gilden, do you remember him?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was their punishment. When they got out of line, they said, "Okay, you got to box Bobby Gilden. He was a tough guy." And of course, he won all the time, you know. So that's one thing I remember about the school. But I remember meeting, making some very good friends there, and there was no big deal about moving to that school. There was not. I welcomed it. It was a pleasant experience, very definitely.
and then Dalrymple was.
Their uncle was the same. It continued being a very nice experience. Mr. Valentine, do you remember him from?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
I did all my time.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
he's an outstanding teacher that I remember from Dalrymple School. He was a white teacher, very good, yeah.
And your career path after high school in Albion?
Well, okay, it was instilled upon us to go to college. That was put on our mind at a very early age, so we were very fortunate enough, myself along with my two sisters, we all got through school. I have a master's degree, but both my sisters are masters. So even though my parents lacked a lot of education, they were dead set upon us getting that opportunity. And how he did it, I do not know. He worked at the Malibu making normal wages, but he must have been a pretty smart guy. He dished out that money whenever I needed it. I was very poor. going to school, you know, I had no money, you know, but I was just glad to be there, you know. So that's why my parents were just very definitely my heroes, very definitely. I graduated from Dayton College in 1970. Let's see, I worked in Ann Arbor for a while, but my most significant job, believe it or not, was at the Malibu. I worked there for 28 years. Never would I have thought that I'd end up working at the Malibu and enjoying it, but now that I look back, it was the best job I ever had.
Now, what did you do?
Well, it was a salary job. I did a lot of hard, dirty work for a long time, but the last maybe 8 years that I was employed there, I had a pretty nice job that I enjoyed. I was a technician, I was a sand technician.
Okay.
And it involved a little this and a little that, and I enjoyed it very much. I do, yeah. Now that I look back, because considering my personality and everything, I didn't belong in a foundry. I should have been somewhere else, but that was more attuned to other people, more aggressive people. And but you know, I spent too much time there, and I ended up staying there until it closed. Yeah.
Do you remember what year that was?
2002. That's when the
2002.
Malibu went down there. And it never should have closed. It just mismanagement or something. It never should have closed. No. It's kind of interesting. At the time, I thought it was not a very good job, you know.
Mhm.
But once you leave that job and go somewhere else and do something else, you realize how lucky you were doing that, you know. I had a lot of regrets having to work somewhere else after Malibu closed. I realized then that I think that was the best job I ever had.
And did you say your father was from Alabama?
Yes, he was
Where-
born in, excuse me?
Whereabouts?
A place close to Luverne, Alabama.
Yeah.
Luverne, Alabama. That's where my grandparents stayed, and that's where we went to visit them every year. When we were very small, my parents thought it was very important for us to know our grandparents, and we got to know them. They were kind of old people when we started going down there, but I have a very vivid memory of both my grandparents. Yes. Yes.
And did your parents have friends up here? How'd they pick Albion?
My mother came from a large family, and somehow work was really good in Michigan in certain areas, and that's why they came up here, because of the work. Right. Yeah. So.
It sounds like in the timing that there was a big wave of World War I of
Yes.
African Americans leaving the South for the
Yes.
North, and another big wave as World War II industry
Mhm.
picked up, and
Mhm.
so America was preparing before Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
places like
Yes.
Malibu would have been hiring.
Mhm. So, like Albion was a good workplace. Saginaw, that's where my relatives lived, is a good workplace. So they mainly came up for the work. That's right. Yeah.
Now, in my memory, did your mother ever work outside of the home?
No, she never. Yeah, my mother never worked.
I mean, she worked.
She never got a job. She never had a job outside of doing something in the house. She might have done a little babysitting or something, but and when my father died at the age of 59, my mother never worked. My father had her in good shape, so she never had to work. My father was a very hard-working dude, and
Entrepreneur.
okay, all right, he was that.
Yeah, he was.
My father was willing to make a dollar any way he could. He sold worms, he sold rabbits, he sold suits. He's a good boy. He cut a lot of heads around there. But any person 60 years or over, he probably had the haircut by my father. Yeah. So he was just willing to do anything to make a dollar, to make things better for us, better than he had when he was growing up. You know. So.
And he had, what, 3 houses?
Right. He every time he got a couple $1,000 together, he invested in an old house and rented it out. So you might say he was he wasn't rich, but I think he was pretty comfortable. He was pretty comfortable. Yes.
He really had an entrepreneurial streak.
Yes.
I mean, their house was like a second home of mine.
Oh, very definitely.
Yeah,
I spent
yeah.
a lot of time around there.
And, I mean, we've talked, because he said his mother worked very hard, by the way. But she didn't work outside the home, but I know she kept the garden.
Oh, she
and
loved the garden, yeah.
I'd go over, he wouldn't work in the garden, but I
didn't
love-
like working in the
I
garden,
love
no.
working in the garden. That's
Yeah.
why I go work with his mom,
Yeah. Yeah, so, now Bob's parents, Bob's mother, who I knew was part of my church, so she was a very lovely lady, you know, and his sister. And, it's just amazing how we've been able to maintain this friendship all these years.
Yeah.
When my parents went away, Bobby used to come over and spend the night with me, you know, what did we do? Watch you know, whatever he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he was that kind of a go-to person, you know, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been friends forever.
And, hiking, you know, going out and spending the night out in the
camping
park,
out.
camping out. Oh, I loved it. Yeah,
Yeah.
finished.
You traveled south to visit.
Yes, I did.
And do you remember, at least in the first part of those travels, that you had to watch out because you were black?
Once upon a time, it was a long journey. It seemed like it took, almost 2 days to get there, you know. And I know we didn't stop at no hotel or nothing. We just kept going, you know. As for blatant racism and so forth, I don't remember too much of that, really. I have a lot of very pleasant memories of my meetings with my grandparents. They had something called the Rolling Store, and even though we lived out in the country, you know, in Boondock somewhere, there was a store that would come right out to your house, and you could buy a pop and candy bars and stuff, you know. And I always was under the impression that my grandparents were rich, but of course they were poor. But my mother's mother and father, they produced a lot. He was kind of an entrepreneur type guy too. He sold everything, you know, peanuts, and, syrup, and so forth. He was very able to make ends meet, you know. And as for my parents on my father's side, they had a lot of cows, you know. I thought they were theirs, but of course they were taking care of them for someone else. So I thought they were rich. Of course they were not. But I remember those stories about Brer Rabbit from my grandparents, my father's father. He was a very good storyteller. Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And how about in Albion, any memories of discrimination when you were growing up that?
You know, it's just that I guess I was so naive, I didn't realize those things were going on. Like the Bone Theater, you know, we should have to set up top, you know, but I didn't realize that was a handicap. It was a good thing for us, you know, we enjoyed it, you know. We didn't realize that we weren't even supposed to sit down the street. I didn't realize those things, you know. So I guess I was just very innocent. I didn't realize those things were going on. At Sullivan's store, we weren't even allowed to go in there and eat ice cream.
Couldn't sit down.
Yeah, I don't really have any very big memories of that, but I was told that afterwards. You know?
Because I think by the time you were probably in 10th grade, around that, we could.
Oh, okay, that was right.
Because that changed just before I finished high school.
Yes.
Because I know, that's right, I worked at the 10-cent store, and then you took over.
Right, yeah.
And I remember us going up there, and we could actually buy stuff and sit down.
Okay.
By the time I was certainly a senior in high school, so you would have been 10th grade, so. Yeah. But earlier, when we were young,
Yes.
I was almost nervous about going in there. 'Cause you just were not welcome. You could feel it.
One thing I could point out is the importance of the church back in those days. Now, it seemed like everybody went to church, and there was a lot more activity going on in the church than like maybe 4 services on a Sunday, which was too much. But we had no choice; we had to go.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't argue. My parents said, "Hey, you going to church? You went to church." And there was something called Sunday school at 9:30 or so, and the regular church service at 11, and then something called the BYPU or BTU.
Yeah, and then BTU.
Yeah, what was it called? Baptist Young People's Training Union, I think,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then there was the night church sometime at 7 o'clock. So parents believed in keeping their kids in church to keep them out of trouble, I guess, you know.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah. And another thing, It wasn't the nerdy type person that went to church. It was everybody. I mean, the tough guys and everybody went to church. You know,
Yeah,
punk
everybody.
and all those people, all those tough guys, everybody went to church.
Everybody.
That was just something that we had to do.
And it was, you know, I mean, I credit the church more than school with making me comfortable with public speaking, parliamentary procedure. We learned all that in BTU.
That's right.
Yeah, before we ever got to
That's
junior
right.
high. Yeah.
So were you in the same church?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, right.
What-
Bethel Church. Bethel Baptist Church.
Bethel.
I still go to that church, by the way. I was baptized there about 61 years ago. But for the wrong reason. I joined because I was 10 years old. That's not the real good reason for joining the church. But I joined the church, and my sister, she was 7 years old, she went up with me. So, you know, but I've since then made more of a commitment toward the church. You know, it means more to me now than it did.
But we were all conditioned to that.
Conditioned,
I mean,
that's right.
that was accepted.
That's right.
And not accepted, it was expected.
Expected, right?
That you're going to join the church before, what, 12?
Yes, at a very early age, yeah.
And in that time, when you were young and West Ward age, was Bethel Baptist like the church in Albion, or
Was it
in the
the
black
church?
community?
I mean,
There were so many churches.
It was
It
for,
was one of the,
for
not
us.
the best one, yeah, for us, right? It was the only church for us, yeah.
But there were only there was Bethel in terms of black churches, and there was
Down the street, Lewis Chapel, probably.
Lewis Chapel.
And Macedonia,
And Macedonia,
Right.
and Leggett Chapel.
like it, Alvin Street,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were 4.
right.
Yeah. And there was, later, they actually had a building, a Pentecostal-like,
Where's that located?
that's the one that's almost to Broadwell, all the way up Avenue.
Oh, yes, the little church on the,
On the right-hand side.
yeah, the right-hand side,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
but, I don't know when they actually had a structure, an actual church building.
Mhm.
Cause it seems like, you remember any of those tent meetings, those revivals?
The revivals, yes. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we had all of that.
Yes.
And,
Do you remember, you probably know Brother Wheeler, do you remember him back in the day? Right?
Yes.
He was very much part of our family.
Oh.
In fact, I went down and I saw him just before he died.
Ah.
I saw him the night before he died, yeah.
Yeah, he must have known a whole library full of information about Albion and its history that I don't know how much of it was preserved.
Yes.
But it was always, by the time I sort of caught on that I should talk to someone like that, he was in Texas and
I
you
see.
know, but
I talked to him on the phone once, and I can't remember. I don't think he was in Texas yet, but for some reason, I had to talk with him, and it was like 2.5 hours later. He had told me the whole history of garbage in Albion and all the politics that was involved
Politics,
about
yeah.
who collected what and where and how political it was. And someday it would be interesting to pull all that together. I know the notes are somewhere. And like Wes, I was foolish enough not to know that he had such a wealth of knowledge of the whole community.
He knew how to do things.
And then suddenly, I can't even remember what initiated our call, but I do remember the conversation, and at one point I began to take notes, and I was scrambling with the phone and trying to remember everything that he was telling me, because it was all about, you know, the landfill over on across from Austin, and how the mayor had his, and somebody else got all of the well, there was a mayor in town that was involved with
Joan,
war
right?
profiteering from gathering of the recycled metals and things, and so it was, It's a real complicated political story that I had no idea until I talked to
Do you know his son, by any chance, Reverend? Marion Wheeler, he's a lawyer out of California. Now, he would have loved to have been part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would, yeah. He's very interested in what goes on.
Yeah, I don't know if I really know him. I've read about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a daughter that I knew for.
His daughter,
Yeah.
pharmacist, maybe,
Bernadette.
Berdina, right, yes.
You mentioned that Reverend Wheeler ran like a homeschool
Yes,
tutoring.
yes. When the school shut down,
during
that's right.
They kept
That's
the
right.
kids out of school.
That's right. So we're
That'd
very,
be an
very,
interesting part to learn
productive.
more about
Right.
Yeah.
for our
Mhm.
project, to see what more we can learn about
Do you
that.
know anyone who went to the school that Reverend Wheeler?
Well, it was just kind of, we met maybe in the church or someplace, right, after the school shut down.
See,
I think-
I was already gone.
You were gone, okay.
Yeah.
What do they call it, something like the Royal Ambassadors?
Well, that was a club he had for boys,
For boys, okay.
but it,
Is it-
I mean, I was in that, but it wasn't connected with school.
Okay,
you know.
okay.
But I remember that group.
Okay, well, we should go out camping. and
Yeah.
That sort of thing, yeah.
Told us how to cook in a coffee can.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
So where did the title come from?
The Royal, I remember that in my mind, something,
That's
the
the
Royal
title.
Ambassadors.
Yeah.
Royal Ambassadors, yes.
Yeah. Ambassadors to where, for what? I don't know if we ever knew.
Right.
But-
I think you're just trying to fill the void after the school closed, to give the young people something to do back in those days, yes.
I mean, a lot of the church people, because I don't know, when we were younger, you know Mrs. Nancy Davison? Used to live on the corner of Chestnut and Albion. But
Reverend
she-
Davis?
No, not Reverend
Oh,
Davis,
no.
but she was in our church. She and Miss Brown were
Oh,
sisters.
yes.
And she used to have something for us on Wednesday or Thursday night, and it was just a group of boys, because I know we would ride our sleds to go to church and meet with her, because she was such a nice person.
She used to live on Albion and Chestnut?
Chestnut.
Yes, I
Yeah,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, but a lot of adults were involved with us like that. And
Right.
Various,
Yeah.
The school closed at the end of the school year?
yeah, it would have been the 52, 53 year, because that's when Mrs. Holmes retired. And then that September of 53 was when the actual boycott took place, and it never opened again. And I think within a year they were starting to tear it down.
So how long were the kids out of school during that boycott?
I can't answer that.
I don't know.
Whenever the school year started, I don't know, probably September. in those
September,
days,
yeah.
It closed in October.
They
The,
closed it a month.
So, month and a half or so. But I do think when, and I'll need to double check this, so technically it reopened. I think some children were there. Not every parent kept their
Right.
children out.
Yeah. For that month
But
and a half.
only a few, and
Mhm.
putting the pressure on the school board, but was open, and was the intention of the school board to
Mhm.
keep it open, and then it became politically
Mhm.
not feasible to do that.
Okay.
And Reverend Wheeler was one of the ones that was
Oh, yeah.
making it unfeasible.
Well, we're done.
That's great. This
A lot of information coming out.
Yeah,
Very
this
interesting,
has
very
been,
satisfying.
Royal ambassadors.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had all kinds of things going.
Yes.
And
You know, you ever go to the ice cream place after Sunday school, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that
The whole
something,
dairy-
man? I bet they did more business that day than the whole week.
Yeah, there was a dairy on the corner of Cass.
Cass and
Ann
Cass and
Street.
Ann.
And
It was a dairy, yeah.
Yeah, and they would be open on Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, because of that, all that
And
traffic.
we'd come out of Sunday school and race.
Go ahead and buy, okay, I bet they
I
did
used
more
to
business
love-
that Sunday, in
Yeah.
those And then 1 hour or so? Yeah.
Yeah, we would load up before church.
That's right.
Yeah.
I used to like to get the chocolate milk. It used to cost 7 cents for a little bottle like that. And
I used to get a cherry sundae and have them not put the pieces of cherry in, just the syrup.
You know, one thing we didn't mention about was Rustin Hope's store.
Oh, yeah.
That was very
Yeah.
significant. There was a store right on Washington Street where everybody went. Rustin Hope was the name.
Yeah, Rustin.
And he was a very generous guy. I think he could go in and get stuff on credit and everything.
Yeah.
You know. Everybody liked him.
Yeah, those kind of, it's like his store and Bob Pearson's store.
Bob Pearson, yeah. Liked him.
Yeah, I mean, they always, you could go in and get stuff and then your parents would pay at the end of the month
Yes.
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, some of those stores were still going when we moved to Albion in 1968.
Because didn't the Spicers,
The Spices bought it.
they bought it?
Right.
And now, the last person we're scheduled to interview, that's her home now, that
Is that-
building. Betty's
Beverly.
Betty.
Betty.
Yeah.
Yeah, Betty lives right where the store used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So Albion was a very interesting place a nice place to live back in the day. People were concerned about the kids going to school and having a good education, everything. Very good.
yeah. So how many places I know you lived on Washington Street, then you lived on
On
Michigan?
Michigan, right, all through high school. Now, prior to that, I understand when we were very young, we were babies, we lived on Austin Avenue, right next to the Washingtons, I believe.
Oh,
Well, that's when Gloria was a baby, so I don't have any
Oh,
memory,
yeah.
but I heard that.
okay, so,
Yeah. So I can only think of those 3 places. That we
Yeah.
lived, you know. Yeah.
well, good. Thank you for coming
Okay,
in.
Bob, now, is it my understanding that maybe 40 years from now, 50 years from now, someone might be privy to all this good stuff?
That's the idea.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great, yeah.
If we can keep up with technology.
Being bad.
Well, just that you have to have a device to play each form of technology.
Oh,
So
yes,
we're
yes.
trying to move it into the new Apple Watch. So
Oh,
I
the
saw
Apple
on
Watch,
TV
yeah.
last night.
Oh, are you a big fan of that? You think it's a good thing to have Apple Watch?
I don't know.
That's too much for me. I'm not ready for that. I'm not.
Okay, how am I gonna?
No.
But because of you, the royal ambassadors will live on forever.
It
It's on
sounds like,
tape.
On tape, right.
it
That's
sounds
great.
like it
That's
should have been a singing group.
That's great.
The,
I think about what it cost to go to
Well,
college back in 1961.
I think it's either $1,250 a year or a semester
Yeah,
in '61. Now,
Wow.
$45,000 or something like that.
yeah, this student loan thing.
Oh.
Did you pay, we found a receipt for he was at Whitman College in Washington State, and I think it was $800 a semester for tuition.
$800, yeah.
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 But that changed.
But that was shocking then.
Yeah.
Why
It
is
was
it that the
for
students are
us.
having so much difficulty paying those loans back? I had to pay back $2,300 when I got out of school, and they let me do it over a 3-year period. I paid it off. But now you talk about the average person got $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 to pay back.
More.
Yeah, so
That's
it's
Depending
a
on-
a
lot.
huge amount.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, they made it into a for-profit business
For
instead of
profit,
a government-sponsored
Right.
program to help people.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
it's
for profit now.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. When Adam went to move to Western, he went because they had been promised money. His whole cohort, and they were supposed to get money, and then they get there, they're in class,
Mhm.
and they get word there's no money.
That's how they got the news, huh?
And so then they're all scrambling to find a way to get money,
Gee.
to make up for what,
I
because they didn't want to just drop their program. They're all in doctoral programs.
I don't see how my parents were able to afford it. We had at least 2 kids in school for years. I have a sister, 1 year older. She was in Olivet.
But
You
one
don't
of-
remember working because
Do-
our folks didn't have it. We just Wes did all kinds of odd jobs and stuff. His folks never paid a penny of his education, and my mother begged me not to get married because my dad had died when I was a sophomore in high school, and she would be able to get some kind of assistance if I would stay her dependent
Right.
while I went to college.
Yeah.
And so she was afraid I wouldn't go on to school if we got married, but we did. Of course, we were set on doing that. So
I think my first or second year of college, I had a job. I was making $15 a week. I was rich. I mean, what do you need? You know, you don't have a car, you drink a little beer, and go to a movie. What else you need? I was rich. I was making $15 a week, and oh man, I had money in my pocket.
I had at Alvin College, but I'm sure everywhere else, it's just a tremendous fleet of expensive automobiles.
Somebody has
They
money,
bring-
right?
yeah.
Yeah, they bring all these big fine cars, you know.
Oh, I can look out my window sometimes. I can see a Mercedes.
Yeah, these are students now,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. SUVs galore.
I used to envy those guys so much. You know, when I was a freshman sophomore, these guys, yeah, I'm just barely lucky to be here. My father's struggling to pay, and these guys got brand new cars, you know, brand new. I said, wow.
yeah, Wes's folks were
Bob
too.
Duncan, some at Malibu.
Oh, yes, I worked around him. I sure did.
You know, when, Leslie and I did this class on Albion, and when we started that in '97, we used to take the students there. You might have seen us come in.
Yeah,
back
it
there.
was very
What-
educational to see
Yeah,
how
it was really
stuff was made,
educational.
right?
It's
We'd
like-
take the students and
experiencing
they
the
would let
Industrial
them walk
Revolution.
That's
through
right.
to the buckets that were, and the kids would like have the sparks would come and land on their tennis shoes.
Right.
I'm amazed they let us do that. They made us wear hard hats, but
Yes.
the
Sparks coming out from the
but the sparks
melting
flying
area.
off the melting.
Right.
And I got pictures of them from. You may be in some of the pictures.
And my father, he worked hard. He got very dirty, but I guess he did
I
find the
couldn't
work.
Go ahead, Woody.
What are we gonna do?
Hey, buddy. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, nice.
pleasure.
It's a pleasure
Maybe
being part of this, really.
we'll rope in for another interview just on the Malibu.
Well, that'd be fine.
You
That'd
know,
be
I
fine.
was looking at bringing up videotape and that sort of thing, and I found Wes and I went down there the day of the auction,
Yeah.
and
You're out.
I thought I'd lost that tape, but I actually have the auctioneer doing his
That was
little
a sad
auctioneer
time.
talk.
Yes.
I think it was just the corporate world that was manipulating and leveraging and
Yeah.
independent of what any particular factory was doing. Yeah.
But we went down there that day, and I was working here in the library when
We're gonna
everything
take a couple
closed,
shots.
and
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was the one who
Okay.
went down and got the last pictures out.
They should
And
do-
the last day I went down there, the guy that guarded was down there with his camera, and he had a video, a tape,
What?
You turn just in time.
security camera
That
that he was watching.
Oh, yeah.
And he called me one day and he said,
Want me to look at you or look away?
"Come on down,"
Yeah, you're
and
doing
we
just
found
fine.
some
All right.
pictures on the wall. We took
Yeah,
a
that's good.
hammer and broke the glass out and took the pictures out. And that was the last. There
You're
wasn't
familiar
another
with,
soul in there.
The photographer Lanu, you know her.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember meeting her years ago, and every once in a while I run into her now. Yeah.
She's still active.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a neighbor.
You don't know anything about the theater we stand in town. You know anything
Well,
about that?
I've heard mainly from Bob.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah, we had two theaters, and it only cost about 10 or 15 cents to go, right?
Yeah, the other one's right where the hardware is.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, yeah, right here
Right
on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is still out of Weston.
I think
And
before that was a livery
You
stable.
needed to be on one side or the other.
That building.
I don't, now how were things at that theater, Bob?
How
How
were
were
you
things
work-
there? Could you sit anywhere?
No, you remember, that's the one, you go in, the screen is up front, and there's 3 sections.
Is it not coming?
And we had to sit on the left-hand
See, I
side,
don't remember that particular, that part.
Left hand facing this.
facing the screen. We were on the left-hand side only.